Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Misfit Toys. We were just listening to Sylvia Copeland, who is the mama chanteuse of our wonderful, wonderful guest today, Miss Maija DiGiorgio.
Oh, thank you.
Excited. Oh my God. The world, we know you're watching. We know we can't see you, but we can feel you. Jazz hands, snaps, get up. It's the hour of power, baby. The hour of power. We have the most talented Maija DiGiorgio, NBC, HBO. Catch her new special out now on the Dry Bar Comedy app. If you don't know, now you know. We're going to be dropping these links into the chat. It is time for breakfast and BITCH. So what'd you have for breakfast and what is bizarre, ironic, terrifying, crazy, and hard in your life right now?
Oh, bizarre.
I'm being rude. Okay. Maria, let me give you a shout out because I just got carried away with the music and all the Creole-ness. I'm going to chill out now.
I'm going 0 to 100 real quick, Iggy. I just had my coffee. Let me catch up. How you doing, everybody? Maija, you're looking gorgeous. That lighting, boom, boom, boom. I love it.
I'm trying. I'm in the Tiger King cage in Florida, so I feel like I'm in Tiger King with the pool, and that's why Iggy's got the pattern on his head.
I love it. So what'd you have for breakfast, girl? Big, I'm tell me what you got.
Oh, okay. This is a bad breakfast morning. I usually am trying. I'm down here in Florida, and my pandemic has been quite delicious. I've eaten like everything I swore I would not eat. This is like no one's looking. I'm gonna eat whatever I want. So I have been on a like keto diet, but this morning I had chicken wings for breakfast.
Yes.
Chicken wings. Yeah.
Girl, I love me some wings.
Coffee and chicken wings. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like what happened this morning. It was a little bit of an accident. I didn't plan for the wings, but I ran out and I was like, I'm hungry. And then I was like, oh, those wings look good. And they were like hot and spicy. And I was like,
you.
So like, yeah, that's what happened.
Live your best life. That was universe telling you live your best life.
It was kind of between that or the good Chinese ribs down the street. And I was like, you cannot do ribs for breakfast. And I was like, no one is looking. So then, I rolled over and had my wings. Nobody to judge me. I was in private. Snacking on my wings.
Maria, do you ever feel judged when you go out to eat, Maria?
You know what? I don't know. No, because I don't pay attention. If I'm eating, like, you know, when I do,
I'm feeling you. I got a good story
is when I'm in the car. I feel like people are looking at me crazy because when I go in. Like I have a whole ass buffet on my dashboard. You know what I'm saying? And I do feel like people are looking at me like, damn, this bitch really going in. And I'm like, yeah, I'm eating. Like, what's the problem? But like when I'm out at a restaurant, not so much.
So me and her could roll together because I'm the same. Like when I'm right now, I'm trying to be a little, more, I'm trying to be conscious because I have been going crazy. Right. And so I was not at home. I was on my hike, which I was supposed to be on my diet hike. So, I felt like I had to hide, but normally, I'll have like, give me a rack of ribs. That's my thing. I'll have a whole rack and then I'll just black out. Like things can happen. I won't even notice. Like things can be happening. I'll be like, look, when I'm finished, I'll look up.
Like, oh, that was, wow. It's so funny that like sex and food just go hand in hand because that's what happens, after you hook up with someone. After it's over, you're like, what did I just do? Oh my God. Is that just me? Is that just me? I don't know. But
she's bringing up all the shame in one spot. Okay. She's bringing the walk of shame.
It's just too close, I'm just like, wow, okay. Well, maybe that's just me. The bigger the hoop,
I know you're funny as can be. No, I'm not a big hoe. I'm very like I'm the opposite of a hoe. I'm actually the tease. I'm a lonely tease, but I'm
I'm here for the tease too, girl. Yeah, let them know that they can't have what they want. I'm here for it.
Yeah. My relationships have just been a series of bad decisions for me. So it's crazy, which leads to more food.
The symbiotic or
if they
vicious
can't get,
cycle, whichever.
if they can't get this right, at least I can get this rack of ribs right. You know.
Damn right, girl. Where have you been all my life? Damn.
I know we gotta hang. We're gonna be dangerous on the road.
See, we can do keto at Korean barbecue, baby.
Oh, like like being gay in Hollywood. Like there's nothing worse than being gay and going to like a holiday party or going to like a party. Like I go to the bathroom not to do cocaine, but to eat cake.
Oh my God.
Like
I have snuck sandwiches into the bathroom in Hollywood. I've had like,
you know what I mean? You can't eat at a party in public. Like people look at you like you're like we're at a party. Like in the bathroom, I'm in the bathroom sitting there eating. Everyone else is like trying to do cocaine. I'm like, let me just get these snacks up in my body before.
I was dating this one guy I was waiting. This one guy had a drug habit, and I didn't know. People like, Maija, you can't date him. He's got a drug problem, this and that. And I was like, look, he left me with a rack of ribs. He disappeared for like 45 minutes. He went into the bathroom. I was good with the ribs. I didn't need the interruption. I don't want to share anything. And plus, he'd always like, yeah, I'll get my order. And then he wouldn't eat his order because he was too whacked out of his brains. I was like, oh, I'll just take those as well. So then I found myself in the ladies' room with like a sandwich. Like he's not going to eat the other half of this.
God, I love it.
But Hollywood, yes, that is like the most depressing. I'm a New Yorker, so like you walk and eat. Like you walk, like this is New York. I'll walk, 80 blocks, not even think about it. I'll just keep walking. I'll be like, I'm kind of hungry. I'll grab a slice. You eat your slice. You walk 10 more blocks. You're like, I can have another slice. And you get another slice, and you be like, you know what? I need something to drink. So you keep in motion. So you feel like you're working it off. You are working it off, and there's no one there to shame you.
That makes so much sense. Like I can't go to. I think in Hollywood trying to hide my eating, I would feel dumb because if you saw me at a Hollywood party and I wasn't eating, people would look at me weird. You feel me? They're like, "Who are you trying to fool, bitch? Go get that sandwich on the table. We're not gonna eat it." And I'm gonna be like, "Bet, thank you, thank you for calling the elephant in the room the elephant so she can eat him, please."
You stupid! I'd be hanging with you, and they'd be like, "Where the two of them sneak off to?"
Don't shame me. You can't.
I have this.
You have to feel shame to be ashamed.
I have this
I
one.
want to give a quick shout out to Ray Turner, who's watching from Wales. Sammy over in Buffalo, New York. We got Mistress K in LA. Everybody's watching from all over the world. We love you. Speaking of all over the world, your parents. So your mother is Creole Black, correct?
She's Black. She's not
Black.
Technically not Creole. They kept saying she was Creole because the record labels couldn't handle overqualified light-skinned Black people, so they have to make them something else. You notice, like that's not just didn't start with Obama. That's historic. Like, very overqualified. Let's just try to pretend she's got something else going on. No, she's just regular Black from the South. Well, she's from Ohio. My grandparents are from the South.
Okay, and then the other side, your dad is Sicilian.
My father's Sicilian, but he was born in Africa. so
he was born. To talk about on stage.
I've never talked about that. No, my father was born while Mussolini was trying to occupy Northern Africa, and my grandfather was in charge of all the transportation. So he was from Ethiopia, from the Abyssinian War into World War II. So Ethiopia into Somalia, my grandfather did 15 years in Africa, and my father was born there.
Wow.
And they had to wait for the war to end for my grandfather to come here first. And then my father was like a refugee as a child with my grandmother the two of them just hiding in refugee camps for like 3 years or something crazy in northern Italy. And then they came to America, and he was the only child, and he was babied, and he was supposed to marry an Italian. If you're going to be that smothered, you're supposed to. Italians, you got to marry Italian. You have to marry like next village is. If you marry like a Sicilian marries an Italian, that used to be a drama in those days. So him marrying my mother.
So ethnically, your dad is African, or is he Sicilian? I missed that part.
My father is Sicilian, but his passport is Somalian. His passport is Somalian. He was born in what's causing me this line? He was born in Mogadishu, And
right.
but that was an Italian occupation. So his passport is Somalian, and his immigration papers are all like place of birth, Africa, country. They call it country of
Right.
birth, Africa. They don't even say where.
Right.
Africa, and they even have a complexion section where it says what is his complexion.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's considered
wild. I just
he's
found
considered
out about
medium.
that.
Yeah, they used to do complexion. I'm gonna inch this way to get the line
Oh,
out of my face. There we go.
That is,
Okay.
that is wild.
Yeah,
I didn't know
isn't
that
it?
was a thing. I
Yeah.
just found that out.
Yeah, they hated on the Italians for a long time, but I think around like 61, between 57 and 61, they started allowing browner immigrants from Europe. But like they had a policy that if you were kind of from Italy, especially Sicilians hated the multicultural. The Italians hated the Sicilians because the Sicilians were a multicultural, culture going back to like the 1500s. Actually, if you look throughout the history, even the Roman Empire map has the town that my grandparents were from in Sicily, was actually in the Roman Empire map. But because it was one of the first port cities, they had all the Africans, so the Moors that came in, and all the Arabs that came in, and their cultural food is like couscous, which all of Italy doesn't do couscous, but that part of Sicily, that one town, is famous for the couscous.
Wow, that girl, I love history. So you are just giving me all the goods. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
the Italians were had an interesting. My Italian family had a very interesting story of struggle, and I always look mostly to my mom's family for my strength, as Iggy was talking about strong women. But I also, like years later, learned of just how strong my Italian grandmother was as well, for like running with a 2-year-old and hiding in refugee camps for 3 years, and no one knew if they were alive or dead. And in the heart of the war, in the heart of like bombs dropping on them and running and hiding. And it was crazy. And she was so like talked about it so nonchalant. Like right before she died, she's like, "Yeah, it took a long time to get it back home." You're like, what happened after that?
Nana is gangster. When you're a gangster, it doesn't faze you.
She was so gangster. But like, you have two different cultures that are opposite, and the Italians were actually taught to hate African Americans, and and also by how these soldiers were taught during the war. Were treating the African American soldiers during the war, because it was the Tuskegee Airmen that took Sicily. So so all of Italy and all of the world has seen how badly that our own country treated the Nazi soldiers better than they treated black soldiers, and who were you're talking about our own POWs had better treatment. So it's a rich story.
Whew.
So
I love
it. Yep.
Education. Comedy is about education, and it's time to learn, people. I want to ask you, so growing up half black, half Italian, that's a lot of code switching. Was it for you?
Yeah.
And what does code switching mean to you?
Well, a code switching means you're switching almost you're not doing it it's really how people communicate. So your code switch is like a perfect example. The cleanest example is my Italian grandmother, my Italian family. All the women were called my aunts, and all of my mother's sisters on the black side of my family were all aunts. So I would never say, not even thinking, Aunt Betty, Aunt Nettie. I would say Aunt Nettie, but Aunt Joan, Aunt Marlene. It's people don't realize the cultural divide that subconsciously that when you're living in the two cultures, and the cultures that don't blend at all. And
that's
I actually
so subtle too.
Yeah, it really is. And I think people also too, in our country, we have so much of an issue of and I think this is one of the things I missed in my education, because I lost my mom at 14, was understanding that the rest of the world is really caught in complexionism. And when my mother was of the age where people didn't say that you were black was more considered a derogatory term. It didn't come till the 60s when it was, Black is Beautiful movement came, it was all, we were people of color. And my mother was traveling through Europe in the 50s. So you're talking about a movement that was, if you are a different complexion of Black person, you were still a Black person. So like, I don't care if you're a light skin or you have a white father, you were still, by the United States laws, returned to being Black. Nobody counted the white side, they count the Black side.
I mean, they still do that now. Shit.
Yeah, but people don't even think, like in my mother's lifetime, she wasn't able to go into the South and drink from, she was following the Green Book. That was, the Green Book is for real. And that's what her life into, yet she would go to Europe and be accepted all through Europe to play, to perform. But it's very much an American problem. And I find that for me, it was hard going out into the comedy world as a Black comedian, but I always worked in Black show business as a kid. My mom had me working and singing and tapping, and we always grew up in a Black show business environment because that was very, very divided back then, the color line in show business. And then I got into comedy, but then I did like a deaf comedy jam, and then it was like this craze of hip hop comedy that you had to be as ghetto as possible to prove your Blackness. And it was like, I was like, how?
Is that where Famika came from?
No, Famika came
is
from.
Is that where Famika came from?
Oh, okay, so you've done your homework. Okay, so Famika, what's up? How you doing? You won't believe where I got Famika from. Okay, Famika was my Italian friend at boarding school in Greenwich, Connecticut, who wanted to be Puerto Rican. And nobody wanted to be Black, but everyone kept saying, you're really Italian. And she started telling everybody she was Puerto Rican. And then she learned street Spanish. And she would always wear her the big name plates of the guys she would date across her chest. And she was like, what's up? How you doing? Everything? What's up? What's going on? But she was really an Italian girl. And so, but she hung out with all the Black girls. But the funniest thing is all the Black girls that I know and my family are like, we don't talk, we don't yo-yo. We don't no, darling. They're literally all, I got AKAs in my family. Now everybody knows Alpha Kappa Alpha. So thank the new vice president who was AKA. So, who's an AKA. So they were in the Black sororities. And so come from very well-to-do. So they were appalled by my Def Jam and my Black comedy circuit performances, we're not those Black people, darling. We're these Black people, and they all speak like that, darling. How are you? Like my mother would always speak we always sound very, 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 very. She couldn't even do an interview without talking like this. And her friends were like Jeffrey Holder. Remember the Uncola guy? The 7-Up guy who was in the James Bond, the bald guy. He talked like this. Yeah. So all of her friends, they were all. In fact, this is the best story. My mother was friends with Toni Morrison. So Toni Morrison does a play on New Orleans, and it was all about the Creoles. So my mother had a role, and also in the play, in the workshop was Antonio Fargas, who played Huggy Bear on Starsky and Hutch. And I was like, wow, that's the pimp from Starsky and Hutch. And he came over, and so he comes over to my mother, and he's like, Sylvia, darling, are we going to brunch? And I was like, do they all every Black person I know spoke like this. So for me to actually have to get into the hip hop world and be like, yo, Shane, whoa, you heard. It was so weird. So I had white friends that were teaching me, this is how you act Black. And in fact, when I used to work for Hot 97 radio, it was all white employers that were like, can you say yo, hello, what, you heard? And I was like, let me try. Let me try yo, holla. And it was, so I think that has been the extreme, is that there's many different Black experiences. Yes. People do not allow, America's not allowed to believe that. We're supposed to only believe, this Huggy Bear that we're, and not to say that we're not all in the struggle, but to say that white America, it's funny. We're in a very strange time in America. And not all of white America is claiming the people who stormed the Capitol. Even the president, they said even Trump was like, those are my followers. He was more appalled by what they were wearing that they tried to kill Pelosi. You know what I'm saying? It was bizarre. So that's like, so that's what he says. There's classism. Yes, we can be snobs too. And like, it's funny because I usually like it's like I find myself in a weird space of when I meet white people, they find that I'm black, that they want to talk to me like, oh, you poor. Like, no. My people outrank you, darling. we outrank you. My group outranks you. Like, it's like my people know which fork is what fork. You know, I like, so it's interesting. Like there's such our history is important. It's very, very important. And like what Iggy was saying too about strong women and coming from a long line of strong women is you know, someone once wrote on a post, and it wasn't too long ago, they were like, oh, the very rough Maija DiGiorgio. I'm like, rough? One, I don't swear. Two, I have to write a swear. Like someone has to, I don't even write swears in my joke. Somebody will give me a joke, like, this is a joke. I'm like, ooh, that sounds cool. I'm going to swear. I'm an actress. That's how, you know what I'm saying? They're like, you know, I mean, I swear to God, I'm in church like 4 times a week. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to recruit anybody, not even creepy church, but you know, not creepy church, good church. I'm like, I feel like I'm chasing the sun. Yeah. Like normal church. I'm chasing the sun. I'm trying to wiggle back. It's all setting on me. Don't let the sun go down on my forehead.
I'm dying to know because I've been looking for it. I can't find the clip. Can you tell us about your experience on the stage at the Apollo?
Yeah.
I looked for a clip. I'm like, I can't find the clip. I know the moment, but would you share with us that moment?
Okay. So what happens is, now mind you, I got the best comedy training in the world. Oh, you know what? I think if I scoot this way, I'll be out of the sun. Give me 1 second. It's driving me crazy. I have a line on my face, darling. It's unacceptable. So, okay. Is that better? No, nothing is better. Okay, this is Florida, but you have to just listen to me.
Perhaps if you scooted back, darling.
If I scooch back, I love how she's talking to me, Maria. Maria and I are going to go eat ribs and be shameful. And then when people go, look at those two eating all those ribs in public, we'll be like, I'm sorry. What did you say? Pass the hot pot.
I'm waiting for the crab legs, darling.
I'm waiting for the crab legs.
Not suffice until then.
I never felt. I never cared to use my bourgeois stuff, except for when people start putting me down. When they look down on me, like, well, you know, like I had a manager actually say, he said, I understand you got a lot of fire in your belly. You had a hard childhood from all those hard times growing up in the ghetto that you've seen these. I'm like, I went to boarding school in Greenwich, Connecticut. I was supposed to go to Juilliard. Okay. So comedy was an accident. If my mother was still here, I would be like some chanteuse too, like doing bird calls like my mom. Okay, this is terrible. The light is hilarious. All right, yes. We're gonna do my Apollo story. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to tell it like this. Okay, so my Apollo story.
No, just do it with the cross in your face. Jesus is coming literally.
I love you. I love him. I love him. You are my best friend. I can't wait till we get back to LA and get to hang together. Okay, so my first TV taping, I get a phone call, and now, mind you, I'm bombing everywhere. I go to Uptown Comedy Club. The guy who plays .com or whatever, Tracy Morgan's on that Tracy Morgan show, that's Kevin Brown. Him and his brother Andre own the Uptown Comedy Club. They train Tracy. They train me from like getting all booze to crushing. So I finally crush after this workshop I do with Andre Brown, and I get a phone call from Barry Katz. He says, would you like to do the Apollo? I mean, you know, I'm like, look, it's $1,000. I'm like, I'll take it. I've never gotten paid in comedy ever. I'll take it. And I don't even think like, oh, they boo people on the Apollo. And I know that they booed my friends. Like they booed Artie Fuqua, who was one of the guys who was a survivor from the car crash with Tracy. And anyway, so I go in and a fight breaks out in the balcony.
The hook comes.
I love him. I love him. And they send in 2 white cops across the stage to break up the fight. So the audience boos the cops. So now they turn around and they say, put it quick. Steve Harvey goes, stop booing the cops. I go, boo, he sucks. Like, start booing Steve Harvey. So Steve Harvey goes, quick, get a magician. And they put on a magician. And they're like, we saw how he did it. He's a fake. Get him out of here. And they go, quick, get the comedian. And so here I come out like, and I'm like, I'm half Italian and I'm half black. And the whole room just starts booing. And I yelled, shut the hell up. I don't know where that came from, but I went, shut the hell up. And they shut up. And then I was like, you better tell some jokes fast or you're dead. So I rolled through like 4 jokes real fast. Got standing ovation. I had 3 standing O's in the set. And then I got out. And then, yeah, that was the scariest.
Yo, it's there, girl. It came in clutch right then and there. It came in clutch. Like,
you know how to, you're speaking my language. Now you guys you guys really understand me. It's like, okay, there's an overdrive that I didn't know that I had, that my mother had. And that's the black woman side, that when it comes time, when it's clutch time, you're not going down. And that is not an Italian thing. That is strong black woman. You know, I remember one time I was fighting with these roommates and these guys they were running some BS on me. And I don't know what happened, but I jumped up. I was like, I put them both in check and they both were like, oh, well, I guess that settles that. Like, that was the end of it.
Yeah, that's the ancestors coming through, girl. That's the ancestors coming through.
Once I had a hot dog, and he wouldn't stop pushing the ball at my feet, and it was way too early in the morning. And I'm like, don't push the ball. I'm sitting on the toilet to go to. Normally we don't discuss these kinds of things, darling. We don't do toilet humor. But the story is way. So the dog starts pushing, and I'm like, listen. I'm like, stop, and he would not stop. After the 4th time, I literally snatched him by his little butt and gave him a little pop on. I did a pop, and he got a little pop, and he was like, he looked at me like, wow, you like, that was the end of it. It was like you got the skills. Yeah, pow. End of that. No pushing the ball in the bathroom. You know, that was the end. And so I'm surprised it comes out. And it
when it's necessary, darling. It's the last resort, darling.
Yo, my mother was as bougie as can be, and I will tell you, and you can hear by the record, but whenever a fight went down with one of her sisters, she was the one they would call, and she was 5'1". Like, if it was like the ex-husband had kidnapped a baby, like crazy stories, and he had like drug buddies at the place, and then here comes the diva in her little mink coat. My mother would literally roll up and be like, pull out. I heard this story. She pulled out diaper pins, like, the old-fashioned diaper pins. She's like, yeah. Somebody messed with us, we start sticking them. Like, my mother would chase her brother down the block in high heels, catch him. He was like a track star, and whoop his ass. Oh my mother would brawl, and she was 5'1". And that's the beauty of being a black woman, because like you be like, pow, 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 pow. You go, then you do this, then your shoulders shimmy out. You like,
yes,
just fearless.
See what
fearless. Yeah, see what you made me do, darling. It's not with that end. And but I'm also realizing the punishment that goes on in the comedy circuit for being a woman with knowledge and being fearless. And I think that's a lot of, as I'm reflecting back this last few weeks, especially because I'm working on a film project, and it's making me reflect back to that time. And I'm seeing the resentment and the head games that are played, and how hard it is, because you almost have to, you have to dumb it down, and you have to let the guys feel like, because it's so run by men, and even the clubs that aren't run by men, they're actually run by women that are not really a friend to females. It's very, very hard to find women with support that's not like a jealousy or a backbiting or trying to get you to do sexual favors to get the job, or to get you to actually humiliate yourself on stage by doing humiliating jokes sexually that advance, because most of those females advance. You know what I mean by that specifically? No. Okay, you take a great comedian like Adele Givens. Okay, I don't know if you remember Adele Givens from Def Comedy Jam.
I love her. I love her.
Yeah, that's what I grew up with. The strong black female comics. So, like, aside, like, Margaret Cho's my inspiration. She was one of the main ones, and then the rest were made like queens of comedy. S'more, Monique, all of them.
Yep.
So yeah, I loved all of them. That was my big inspiration.
Well, most of the comedy that is sexual in Black comedy I'm not going to take this. I'm going to toe to toe you. Oh, you think you got me? Oh, I'm going to punk you. And then you look at the white female comics that have just very recently, especially in the last, like, I'd say 8 years, are very dirty. They're more about, and then I let this guy smack me on the head with his you know what, and then he came on my face. Isn't that funny? You're like, no, you just played yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a very fine line of how women play themselves. It's different from women who are empowering of, all right, you're going to go here. I'm going to take that step. And that's, I think as a comedian of color, that there's a consciousness of, culturally, we've always been under the umbrella that we were easy. That's what they always have done with when people have crossed into different cultures that are like, especially even in dating, the women of the different culture is considered, oh, she's going to be easy, whether you're Latino or you're Black, or that's always been one of the challenges, I think, as women. And so for men to take you seriously, they would come and date you, but they didn't want to marry you, was considered the thing back in my parents. Yeah. And so
what piece of advice, because we have a lot of women in the studio watching, and comedians in general, but specifically women who are trying to make it in this industry, if you were to go back to some of your earlier milestones in comedy, which I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about those major milestones in your comedy career, what would you tell yourself back when you were starting? Or what would you tell, if a young Maija was starting today, what would you tell her if she wants to reach the success that you're at? What would you tell her? How does she get there? What's the roadmap?
Trust yourself. I think you have to come to a point of, and this is kind of an important conversation, so I might just push myself shade here because I don't want to. Whoa, we got the sky.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, I think it's important for young women to be yourself and to trust yourself. When I first started, I got booed a lot of places, but I crushed in a lot of places. And I just recently looked at my first couple stand-up sets ever. My first and second sets were probably the best sets I've ever done in my life. And it's taken me forever to now realize how good I really was. And, actually, it took Robert Townsend actually looked at one of those jokes and was like, are you crazy? That joke is great. I was like, no, it's just in my pile. He was helping me get back into comedy. And this drove me crazy. It was my first joke. So who is it that these guys that have told me I don't know what I'm doing? It's guys that would steal my material.
How metaphorical is it that when you're telling this story, the shadow's right across your eyes? And but that's so metaphorical that, like, hey, see yourself, trust yourself, that shadow across your face, you're putting the blinds on and you can't see. But if you just
I love him.
It's so deep. And just that inner voice, that trust, and deep inside what that is. If you just pause and listen to that inner voice, is really, that's what you should be listening to, not all those other people.
Yeah, I think the hardest part, because I'm literally cutting a film about this now. I filmed over 600 hours of footage of in my comedy career and of other comedians starting their career. And as I'm looking back at all of this raw footage, and nobody was filming it all back then, so people are calling me now for footage. I'm realizing that only I can answer my questions. And if I wished I was a little bit more patient, because I wouldn't have been so and not so naive to listen to people, if I'd been a little bit more patient, and to not try to compromise myself, because even now I'm fighting the compromise of who I portray myself to be, in which I thought was just a stand-up routine. I was just trying to get funny. I wasn't thinking that this 5 minutes would be the perspective of what the world has of me. And so in a way, even like I said, when I was speaking with Townsend, when he kind of talked me into going back into comedy, or fought with me tooth and nail to kind of get back into comedy after I quit for so many years, the thought was, he was saying it was good that it didn't happen because you weren't true to yourself. You weren't truly who you are.
Right.
And it's hard to correct that and change that later. You know, I feel like
So okay, so I like the fact that you are speaking on this is really like just hitting home, because I think about this all the time, and I kind of struggle with it. I'm struggling with it. We all kind of do. But would you say, looking back now, would you, like you said, you would be patient? So you would be like, if say it took you longer to get where you are today, but you were true to yourself, would you stick, like, would you choose not to compromise as much? Would you have chosen to, like, yeah, maybe I'm missing out on I might miss out on certain opportunities that would give me a wider audience, like make me more palatable to a wider audience? I mean, or do you think like, would you change anything? Because I feel like I struggle with that, about the compromise and like staying true to myself, because I've had people already kind of like try and tell me certain things to make me more palatable, or to, for a lack of a better term, I'm not trying to make it about that, but like whitewashing kind of thing. Like, because that's a lot of what it is. Like, let's be honest, is when you say palatable to everyone, it means it's less of a specific demographic and audience, and more of like the masses, which that's what it is.
well, I feel like in my own journey, like a lot of things happened to me because I had too much integrity. And as I look at it, I had too much integrity, and I had too much. I made really hard choices, and I was fearless in those. I didn't have, and I still think I didn't understand that I didn't believe that there was a problem of being a woman in it, and I didn't really see that I would be also having issues from white people accepting me as a mixed race person and Black, and they wanted to redefine me into something else. But I think a good manager is important to speak for you, because if I had a manager that wasn't resentful or playing a head game, or didn't like women and had his own issues, personal issues, or like wasn't supportive of women, or didn't understand strong women, or wasn't really strong, I have a manager now that is a really good man. And some people are like, well, does he understand like how to get you through here, get you there? I'd rather have a good person that I know I could fully trust, that it will tell you, I don't think this is right, or I can't sleep at night if this isn't right.
Yes.
I would rather have that person, because I can always find you can always produce with something like a producing partner, or you can go into working with other people that you bring in, but you're close. You need to have somebody who can say when something goes awry, can call them on it. And you need I think a male manager too, because when you're fighting sexism, you can't, it's like I'm going to fight racism, and I'm a brown skinned woman, and I'm going to have another brown skinned woman fight to change the laws that are set by white men, and a white supremacist is the guy who I have to convince.
Right.
I feel like we have to have a broader coalition. Men talking to men calms people down. I think that
we need more allies. We need
allies, and I think for if you're going to be wise and you're going to be fearless, I think one is, the other thing is on what I'm learning the last few years, and I don't feel like it's a censorship. Being clean is opened up a lot more doors for me. I'm the first person who could toe to toe any of the crazy drunk New York male comics. You put me in a room, I'll toe to toe you. I don't care. It could be I'll say whatever dirty, whatever I gotta do. But to let people know that let people know how what kind of woman I want to be, what kind of family that I come from, what kind of integrity do I have, And don't be afraid to lead with that, because I think somewhere along the lines, you're as a woman of color,
Mhm.
and as a woman who comes from a really smart family, and my mother being this high level performer and this and that, like chanteuse and singing with all the, just being the reason why all the bourgeois stuff happened was because the box of you're rough or you're gruff or you're anytime you're a person of color, that you're in this box of something. I'm looking at your boxes, Misfit Toys logo. You're in this box of yes, you're automatically broken the way you are. So that's the reason why groups like the Jack and Jill started, where like the after school programs where they would teach Black children after school addiction and art and etiquette and all these things. So these and again, and it created a problem within the community of, oh, you think you're better than, or you're trying to disassociate. In the same way, there has got to be. We're trapped on every end.
Yeah.
So the only way to break through the trap is to shine. It's the only thing. It's like it's light, it's love, it's art, it's soul. It melts it. But every other solution that I've looked for has not been able to handle it. Arguing it, debating it, negotiating it. You're negotiating. If you're negotiating something that's built on racism, and then you're putting yourself in a position that doesn't. You're not helping your own story by creating a joke because you're trying to get a bunch of drunks in a room somewhere to laugh at your joke, and you diminish yourself in that joke. Those can be used against you in the court of law. And I've actually had my jokes used against me in a court of law to say that I deserve to be treated like a hoe because I said a joke on a stage. I have depositions proving it. Okay. So this is how far it doesn't stop. So if the only way I find that that gets me past the guys that I know that hate me, guys that I know that are jealous, guys that have spent decades trying to stop me specifically, like me, like what I don't have anything. What? I don't get it. You think like, right. I'm just trying to tell my jokes. Why are you focused on me? Is to shine and be loving and to inspire better behavior. Because until you inspire better behavior, you can't demand better behavior, because now you got to come down to their level.
Yeah. So
if your mother came here, or your father, like my father, came here, and when you come from immigrant families, they're meticulous. Your shoes have got to be perfect. Your clothes are got to be perfect. You got to be, the type of people that will fight with you because you don't have a slip under your skirt. You're like, people still make slips.
I'm a bad Asian daughter, let me tell you. I like it. For sure. But I totally get that.
But we're not out of the war yet.
Right.
You have to shine above it. You have to be beautiful above it. You have to be smart above it, because it's what it is. It's all of racism and sexism and jealousy. It all really comes from jealousy. It comes from hate,
Yep.
So you can't fight hate with hate. It just inflames it. So I find to control your own art and control your own fear is the only way to stay on your own trajectory. You set your goals. Life always will take you in different journeys. God takes you in different journeys. Your whatever your faith is or background is. The giant one love kind of moves us in different spaces, and we try to take our life lessons as best we can, and we try to get to where we want to go and stay focused there. But the focus needs to be on, how bright can I shine? Because when I go into a room after quitting comedy for many years and being chased out, and I've been through so much, it's a little mind blowing, all the stuff that's happened to me because I wanted to work in this business.
Yeah.
But the only thing that makes me want to get up and face these dark rooms where you go into some of these comedy clubs and it's vile. Like, as a woman to go in, somebody asked me to describe it, and I'm working on like a film and I'm trying to make it funny about what it's like to really go into a comedy club as a female, a young female. It's vile. It's, unless you were brought up like in a brothel, which you could be, but they will find every way to if you're really good. And they do it to each other. Male comics, they do it to each other. It's locker room stuff. But now you just walked into the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have to either snap and you're trying to stay with it and be cool. It's all right. It's okay. This happened, but it's all right. This guy was inappropriate, but this happened. This guy attacked me on the walk home, but it's okay. It's cool. I'm good. All right. But
No,
is your
it's
spirit
not okay.
good?
It's not okay.
I know, but I know people whose careers are ruined and their dreams switched, and it's not okay, but it is okay because the hierarchy does not come down. Like, we can sit here and say it's not okay, and it helps me to hear you as a man say to me it's not okay, but I still got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I still got to stomach it. So how do I let the guys who are saying it's okay, we're going to help, we don't want you damaging this guy's career, and act like they're going to do you a favor because they know you got wronged, but then they'll eventually want to work you out. See, it's like sexual harassment isn't just like sexual harassment. It's not about the guy hitting on me at my job. It's about, now I'm the problem because I know about the bad behavior.
Yep.
And because I know this secret, I could destroy him later. So let's find a reason to get her out of here legally.
Right.
And we don't even have those restraints in the comedy club. You're talking about
no HR, nothing.
Nothing.
You're in the den of wolves, and that's it.
You're in the den of wolves. You're hearing things. I mean, you walk in and guys are doing jokes about cutting off women's heads and having sex with their skull. I've heard this. Yeah. And then they grab you. I've had been grabbed. Like, guys walk up and grab you in the crotch and say all kinds of stuff, and then follow you home and attack you in the apartment, then slander you, and then tell everybody they slept with you and nothing even happened. You're over there making a police report, and they're acting like they got something. Meanwhile, you're like, you know what I mean? And you're being cool. So
I am going to send all my Misfit toys a mace. So when you go, you bring your mace to the club. This is going to be this is not okay anymore. I'm so glad.
No,
Maija, you're talking about this because so many of our female comedians experience this, and I'm just having them hear that from you, and then like that this is something that even you, who has so much success, has gone through and is still going through, and just to talk about it is so important. It's so like it really.
Yeah. I mean, I know female comics have had it worse than me. I mean, I've had a lot of insane, but I've had some insane stuff, like relentless, and it's just trying to do my job. And you know what, guys that you go like guys that are like guys that started after me and they're doing great. And then here's the best. They go on and they go and get families. They go get married and they go with this and that. Meanwhile, you're traumatized by every guy you see. So then you're going to be single. And all these, I met all these brilliant, strong women like Vanessa Hollingshead, these women who are very incredibly, I know female comics though that have like been raped on the road, have been beaten up on the road by guys, and the manager be like, oh, don't file the police report because he needs to have a career, so don't worry, we'll look out for you. And then they never look out, and then you're going, what's wrong with me? So you're shamed for knowing. You don't even get, so how do you then maintain funny? How do you then maintain creative? How do you then, when you have all this to go and no change?
That boys club is real. And the fact that women still buy into this, like so many times I've seen at the club where women are surrounded by men and she thinks that she's cool, that she's in the club, but they're just trying to get at her. And then she acts catty towards me because I come in and I'm friendly to everybody unless you give me a reason. And I have no problem fighting a dude. I don't care. and I'm like, yo, instead of trying to like, whatever your insecurities are, homegirl, like take your daddy issues and put it aside for a minute and make a connection with a sister, because you have no idea that like how much that might save not just you but that girl. Like if we banded together at a club, because how many times do we go? There's 3 of us at the club and all 3 of us are in a little clique of guys. But do we feel safe? Are you really trusting any of those guys to watch out for you the way we 3 would watch out for each other if we banded together type of thing? You know what I'm saying? So I always put it out there that when you see me at a club, come hang out with me. I'm not going to be catty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, I'm the same kind of person. Like I've never been one of those people that's like a catty person or, but it's also hard because like, it's the hardest part is a lot of females, I don't know. I just feel like a lot of women are more concerned about male attention than being funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
so
why
I don't want to hang out with them.
Daddy issues too, you know what I'm saying? But like,
yeah, no, because that's what it's like. A lot of female comics, to be honest with you, like I don't have a lot in common. I have a lot in common with really funny comedians. I don't have a lot in common with female comics. I have a lot in common with funny comedians. And then funny comedian, the funnier the comedian, the nicer they usually are to me because they kind of respect my dues. But the fact is that Ray's got something. Sadly, global. Want to read, Ray?
Yeah, it's sadly global. A promoter over here is known for only giving female comics a slot on a bill in exchange for a BJ. Yet nobody will expose him for it because of the amount of power that he has.
And people don't realize the people have the power. You know, like you think that if you all
comics have no power. No, comics have no power. And the other thing is that the only thing that has power is fame. And so the problem is, look, what he just said is that's very common. I know.
Yeah.
It was so funny. This is how funny. This is how out of it I am. I didn't even know this was going on. Like when I first got into the circuit, I was so busy just trying to I just was so focused on trying to get funny enough to do like my Def Jams, my Apollos and stuff. I didn't even know that there was a whole bunch of female comics who were brilliant, who had to do that to get into the clubs. Up until like a couple years ago, like I'm like, you did what? Like, that is for real. And I know male comics, and I heard them even on like Rogan, male comics going on Rogan and saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, I made this girl give me so many BJs, and in fact, I ruined her career. Isn't that great? I broke her." And he was like laughing and joking, and you're going, you broke someone's career, and you're joking about it, and they're playing it like that should have been the cut that they removed.
Yeah,
they should have been like, oh, let's not use this clip. Let's cover my buddy up. But no, this is the culture. So, and then on top of it, some of the best comedians, like if you listen to the jokes, you know who told me this? Paul Mooney. He said to me, I remember I was in my downtime and I was like so upset. He goes, "Don't you go in there and let them cry. Let them see you cry. Don't let them white boys see you cry. They're treacherous." He's so mad. And he was like, "Them white boys are treacherous. Look at how they treat their women in their movies. They're always cutting them up and shoving them in a trunk and stabbing them and beating them up." He goes, he told me they used to make Sandra Bernhard cry. He goes, at the store, they used to make her cry. And that's all they wanted to do. He's like, no matter what you do not let them see you cry. They're trying to break you, because that's what happens. This is going to get deep. Once people believe, this is the game here. This is the game. And this is the game that, thank God, like I said, when I met Robert Townsend, he said something and it clicked. He's like, these people, he goes, "Don't you believe God has a factor?" And I was like, oh God, I forgot about God. I was making other people my God. I was making these people, and sometimes you can't see the answer, but what they do is they chip away at your self-esteem. They chip away at your sensibility. My uncle was a very famous tap choreographer. He taught the Hines brothers. He won Tony Awards. And he said to me that, "Maija, the way they control you in this business is to make you think you're crazy. So if people make you second guess yourself, not even just about your jokes, but about the way you do things, or maybe I am being hard on everybody. They do this to women. You're just being hard on everybody. You're just being mean. You're just being abusive. You're just being controlling. Am I? It's gaslighting. Right. I went through that forever. Why am I so much trouble? Why am I more trouble than the guy who's coked up, wrecking the joint, and they're worried about me? You're like, what I do? So those are real. Those are things that are for real. But it's a gaslight. And you got to know what it is. And so, but don't give them the slack. When you write your material as a woman, just write for funny. Watch funny. Try to be funny. Like, there's a difference of trying to make a point and trying to be funny. And I see all young comedians do this. Richard Pryor already mastered the joke before he wrote his deep stuff. He didn't start out like, I was, my mother was a whore and I was raped, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I don't know where the punchline is. Like, the guy mastered punch, setup punch, snap, storytelling, characters. These are layers. It's like going through, an obstacle course. You train to run, you train to swim, you train to climb, you have to train all those things to become a Pryor. You don't just get up and I'm going to tell you my most vile, embarrassing moment that no one should know. And that's a joke. You're like, that's like, voila. You're like, oh, the audience is worried about you.
You're traumatized people, man.
It's like, maybe you should have kept that to yourself. But they do this day one. And that's such a disrespect to the art. It's such a disrespect to the great craftsmen of comedy to say, I'm going to be like Pryor and I'm going to tell you my most vile thing and it's going to be assumed to be as funny. No, it's not funny to just say something crazy. It's funny because there's a structure. There's a way you say it. There's something. I remember, this is how detailed jokes get. The most detailed writer of the group that I was around coming up in comedy was Chappelle. And Dave wrote a joke about taking mushrooms. And he was so excited because he did something so smart that he said, I look at the clock and the clock said something like, it said like 5:25. And I said to myself, it's 5:25. And then he does whatever. And then he goes, and then I did this, I did that, I took a nap, I watched TV, I ate dinner, I went for a haircut, I ran around the corner, I came back, and it was 5:26. It was something like that. It was like, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But the fact was, he wrote his jokes down to the point the joke is written to the point of almost how Hitchcock created in a film. I got to inform the audience twice in The Men Who Knew Too Much that the cymbal crash, that was what we're waiting on, and that's going to be the gunshot. Let's play the song again. Ba-da. You have to inform the audience. That's structure. That is storytelling. There is where you hide the punch. Now, here's your story. Where do I hide this? And that's an art to master that. It doesn't matter if you do it with a newspaper. You read it with a newspaper is better. You're going to be a faster writer if you get a newspaper every day and you write jokes that you're not emotionally attached to, because that will teach you the structure. Otherwise, you're doing a rant. So rants are good, but you can't, like a great acting teacher, William Alderson, who was like Sandy Meisner's protege. He used to say the technique is for when your instinct isn't working. So you get to a club and your instinct, you're panicked about the audience. You made it there late. Somebody in front of you did a joke that's like yours. There's a guy grabbing your butt behind you. You wish you should have a cocktail. Maybe you drank too much. Maybe you drank too little. You got all this stuff going on. So you're not inspired in that moment. When you're in the, like you see like Burr and he's on stage and he's doing a half an hour. And then all of a sudden, out of that half an hour, a new melody of a punchline of a story comes out, and that came out perfect. Glad I taped it. It's different. Finding the inspiration. If that doesn't work, you need your technique. And the technique is the structure of your jokes. That I'm going to go on and I'm going to introduce myself and get you on the same page as me. Not come on and shock you. I mean, it's like walking on, shaking someone's hand. You don't walk up and be like, hey, my vagina itches. And like, that's what comics do. Like,
no, for sure.
Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, what did she just say? Like that's like, imagine you met someone in the grocery store and that was the first thing you were going to say. You wouldn't do that. You would find a common ground. Are the tomatoes on sale? I thought the tomatoes were on sale. Did you not know the tomatoes were on sale? I can't believe it. Why is the tomatoes on sale? You know what this reminds me of? Every time I go to do something happens. It was my mother, my father, my sister. That's how you get in. Yeah. Common ground. And don't look to, would you really introduce yourself with the things you tell people in 7 minutes?
I mean, I'm lucky I got social skills. That's the one thing, and customer service will teach you that. But it's true because it's networking. You're basically networking on stage, you know? Like,
Yes.
how can
Yes.
you find something, like you said, common ground? That's what you do when you network with after the show, before the show. It's the same in customer service. I'm trying to sell you this $300 face cream. Why are you going to buy it from me when you don't know me? You don't know anything about me. But if I tell you, well, I use this face cream and it's amazing. My friend uses my face cream. What kind of face cream do you use? You know, then you go into it. And girl, we are here. Because some of them comics that just do it for shock value. I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't even funny, even with the punchline that you tried to do.
I am so honored and impressed. Today's show was brought to you by the letter R, T, and P. That's rapport, truth to yourself, and patience, RTP. Maija, thank you for reminding us why we are doing this, how to do this, that we are not alone. You have inspired us. You have gained fans from all over the world. If you don't know who she is, go to the app, Dry Bar Comedy. Watch Maija DiGiorgio. She is a talent and inspiration, a beacon of hope and light. I love you so much, Maria.
You're amazing.
An hour of power.
Seriously, thank you so much. I always like.
Oh, no, I can't. I want to hang out with you guys. You guys are like such sweethearts, artists. We gotta get together, and once this is all over.
Definitely.
Well, if you have questions, just reach out. I'm happy to help and share. And
oh my God!
Thank you
so much. I love everybody. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Oh, Ray, Bosco to Pompeo, everybody from New York to LA and in between. We love you so much. Maija, love you. We're gonna end the broadcast. Good night. Good morning, wherever you